Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Kate back at it with a new video. In this video, we're going to discuss why desperate people do desperate things and what could be the consequences of someone being desperate. Let's get started. A few years back, I had a two flat that I had bought that I knew that I had to fix it up and get it right. And I knew that I was going to have to, over time, spend a lot of money to do it. I mean, it needed some windows. The back porch was kind of rickety. Concrete, I think I said that. I think the sidewalks needed some repair. And so it was a lot of things that this property needed in order for me to get it where I wanted it to be. Now, I didn't have a whole lot of money to work with. So what I did was I had rented it out. I had fixed up one of the apartments and I had fixed it up really nice, where it was habitable, everything worked. However, I still had some exterior stuff that I had to get to, and I was working on it as my money allowed. So the tenant that I put in at the time, she really didn't qualify, but she just kept begging me, asking me, and she has few people vouch for her. And that was probably one of my worst decisions I've made when I was a landlord, is never overlook stuff that's looking you right in the face, because it can come back to bite you later, which it did me. So the minute I put the tenant in, I knew I had made a mistake, just by some of the things that I was saying when she moved in. But she fell behind on the rent. And then, I told her she had to move. And that's where my problems began, because then she started calling the city, calling about things that was broken around the place, which she already knew. And then the city came out, and then they started writing up a lot of violations. And then, she would call more. They would come out again. They would write up even more violations. And before you know it, I'm in a heap of trouble. So when I went to court on my violations, they was giving me a set time that I had to get all these violations completed. And I think at the time I needed, I don't know, maybe about, I want to say about $50,000 to kind of get most of the stuff that they wanted done. And so, because I needed first he said the back porch, and I understood that one. Then he came back and said, do the front porch too. And that one was solid, but he said it wasn't up to code. So then I had to get the porches did. And then it was concrete work, and it was this, it was the eaves, it was this and that. And so it was just a mess. Now, I didn't have money to get this stuff done. And then the city, each time I would go to court, which was every month, the follow-up, they would assess me $250. They say it could have been $500 to $1,000. And so I was just kept being charged, violation fees. And it was a hard time. So I finally was able to get the tenant out of there. But that was the easy part, because I still had to deal with the city with these violations. So this is where the hard, where when you're going through some stuff, you're desperate, you're going to do some desperate things. So the first thing I did was I kept trying to get loans. And when you know how that goes, when you really need a loan, you can't get one, right? So I did probably to be, I don't know, about maybe 15 inquiries on my credit just to try to get someone to give me a loan. And no one would really give me what I needed. And then, so I had 15 inquiries. I'm still desperate. And then I had this guy come out, he called me. He called me and said that he can help me because he's in the lending business. And when you're desperate, you're not doing your homework most of the time. So he came out and he was with another guy, and this guy could have been some type of politician or something. He was just really smooth with his gift for the gab, right? And so he was telling me, I can get you the money you need, but the only thing I need from you is like $5,000. Now, at that time, I didn't have $5,000. I had like a couple of thousand that, I had saved up to try to get some things done. But then he was saying that I was approved, but I need to put some good faith money up, and that was $5,000, and he couldn't go under that, right? So I'm feeling good that I was approved because he got on the phone. This was a Sunday, and he pretended he was calling the office, and the receptionist, he gave the receptionist my name, and she said that I was approved. And I was like happy. God finally came through for me, and I was feeling good. I told him I would try to get the money together for him, and the $5,000, right? And I was driving home with my friend, and it just dawned on me. And I pulled over. I said, wait a minute. How could I be approved for a loan and I didn't even give him my Social Security card number so he can do a credit check, right? And then I went home and I looked this guy up and found out that he was running scams all over, the area. And he'd even went to jail for it. So when the guy called in to follow up with me, I told him, no, I changed my mind. I didn't tell him what I knew because I didn't know who he knew, and I didn't want to get caught up where that building was because it wasn't the greatest area, and I didn't know who he knew. So I just told him I changed my mind. Then he tried to say, well, I'll tell you what, because I told him I didn't have the whole file. Well, I'll tell you what, give me the 2,000, I'll take the 2,000. And from that point on, I just told him, I changed my mind, and I just left it as that. Now, the second guy came along. He came out. At this point, I'm trying to just unload the property. And, I'm finna give it away for free because, I just didn't have the money. And so I had this guy come out. Now, the only thing that I needed from whoever took over the property, they had to go to court with me, show proof that they can take over the building as well as the violations. They would have to come out of their pocket to get the building up to par. Now, this guy went through the motions with me, did all that, and the only reason why I did not go with him, he tried to call me and say, let's meet up Sunday, and you sign all the documents over to me. But I said, well, what about the court? Well, yeah. First he was saying he wasn't going to do it. No, I can't do the violations. Then you can't have the property. Then he called me that Saturday and said, well, I'll do the court with you, but I need you to sign over the deed and everything to me now. And then this way, I'll be good. And I thought about it, and then I told him I couldn't do it because this is what he was going to do. If I'd have signed over my deed to him and whatever else he wanted, he wasn't going to take over those violations. I would have still been responsible for him, but he'd have had my property. And what he was going to do on Sunday, when after I signed everything, he was going straight down to the Cook County Recorder of Deeds, and he was going to process it, put it in his name. Now the building is his, and I'm still stuck holding the bag with those violations. But some told me don't do it, and I told him I changed my mind, and he called me for like 2 weeks straight trying to get me to do it. And after that, I just told him I couldn't do it. And show you how things work out. Eventually, I was able to get the money together, fixed all the violations, and everything worked out. So where am I going with this? I know we all going through some desperate times, and desperate people do desperate things. But it's a lot of shysters out there, a lot of shady gradies, and they will take you to the bank and they don't care. So you got to be really careful on who you dealing with, and make sure you do your homework, because if people ringing doorbells and knocking on doors, those aren't the people you really want to deal with. You want to go to them and then do your homework, but not to people just coming ringing doorbells. That's never a good idea. So that's all I have for you. Again, this is Kate, back at it with a new video. Take care, guys.